Every year, Australian wine grape growers lose millions of dollars to these tiny mites, an annual cost of more than $3 million in pesticides, labour and damaged crops that we could do without. Bunch mites are the worst offenders. They cause severe stem and berry damage, blemish fruit and reduce wine grape yields. Other culprits are blister and rust mites. Damaging leaves, large infestations of rust mite can result in significant yield losses. But on the international scene, we do have an advantage over European and American producers, who have a lot more vineyard villains to control. They have to deal with insects which aren't a major problem in Australia. This means that growers are regularly applying a broad range of sprays to combat both insect and mite pests. Sprays that also contribute to the demise of the good guys, natural predators that feed on unwanted pests. Once predators are destroyed, growers have to use even more pesticides, increasing costs for the grower, the consumer and the environment.
There's a lot of concern about residues in wines, and the less pesticides you actively use, obviously the less residues there will be, but from my point of view, being the person doing the spraying, the less spraying I have to do, the better.
Resistance to chemicals is a major concern to growers. As chemicals become less effective, frequency and cost of applications spiral and health risks to users increase. In the past, we've tackled our mite problem with sprays, but that's changing. More and more growers are turning to biological methods.
The more an integrated pest management scheme can be used, the cheaper it is in terms of pesticide costs, and the less input from my part in terms of labour.
Unlike Europe and America, where chemicals have destroyed the natural ecosystem, vineyards all over Australia are still home to an army of natural predators. Already working well in South Australia's riverland, native predators help cut back on chemical costs. Hazards to grape growers, workers and the environment from dangerous chemicals are also reduced. Using biological controls could even eliminate the need for chemical sprays altogether.
Being farmers and frightened of anything that makes our plants look a little upset, we probably never really believed them, but the work showed that we didn't have to spray for blister mite, so we took the plunge and we just stopped. And I know it sounds a bit crazy, but since we've stopped spraying for blister mite, we haven't got any. The predatory mites eat up the blister mites and they get themselves into a balance, and in fact, as I say, the balance is such now that we're flat out finding pieces of blister mite in the block, so quite clearly the predators are doing their job naturally.
Scientists from New South Wales Agriculture at Yanco in southern New South Wales pinpointed 2 predatory mites responsible for some of the good work, Doreen and Victoria. Working with grapevine material from grape-growing areas all over the country, they found widespread distribution of the mites. From the sunny Mediterranean climate of the Riverlands grape-growing district to the icy hills of Canberra's high-altitude vineyards, Doreen and Vicky can be found living in grapevine wood and small refuges on the leaves. Feeding on grapevine pests, this pair appear to be the most dominant of all native predators. And because they're natives, they've adapted to suit their natural environment without the disadvantages of imports.
There are considerable advantages in using native predators as opposed to introducing predators from overseas. The native predators are already adapted to the environment in this country and therefore are likely to be more sustainable. Introducing predators from overseas always carries with it risks of problems. Witnessed the cane toad experience, and there's more costs involved. To be able to use something that's already in the environment has to be advantageous.
Realising the potential these mites could have in Australian vineyard management, Dr. David James and his team made a study of the pair, their profile and habits, where they are found, how they survived, and more importantly, how they could be used in the wine grape industry.
We should be able to achieve the removal of the use of miticides for mite control. There shouldn't be any need to use miticides in the future.
Let's now take a look at the dynamic duo. This is Doreen, 0.5 millimetre long, light brown with a sac-like body carried by 4 pairs of legs, the tougher of the two, with a preference for bunch mites. When sufficient numbers exist, Doreen can keep blister and rust mites at non-damaging levels. Victoria is about the same length, shiny light brown and teardrop shaped with 4 pairs of legs. Victoria is a fast mover and has a liking for blister and rust varieties. Both prefer these pests but can survive when numbers are low by eating other mites, honeydew or pollen. In fact, kumbungi pollen has been used to sustain mite numbers in a breeding program developed by the Yanco team. This technique allows mass breeding of sufficient numbers of Doreen and Victoria for release into commercial vineyards.
Doreen and Victoria are quite unique in the fact that they don't actually need the pest to survive. They feed on the pest and they control the pest, but in times when the pest numbers are low, they will still survive in the vineyard by feeding on alternative food sources, and these sources include things such as pollen, bacteria on the leaf surface, sugars, and other mites that are not damaging to the vine, but they just occur on the vine. So it's an extremely sustainable system where the predators will actually remain at high levels even in the absence of prey.
Predators do have to be introduced in some areas, but once established, they need little monitoring. In the vineyard, natural predators need to be encouraged and sustained to achieve effective pest control with minimal pesticide use.
Predatory mites that we're talking about are probably already in existence around the vineyard, and all we're talking about is encouraging them to go into the vineyard and to stay in the vineyard by using the management practices that we're developing.
To preserve Doreen and Victoria, it's important to use the right sprays for disease and pest control, avoiding the use of those sprays which are harmful to natural predators. Unfortunately, many growers apply routine pesticides without checking if native predators are present. If Doreen and Victoria are in the vineyard, there may be no need to spray at all.
Because you start to think this way, then we're paying more attention to the emergences of insects, like programming your sprays to coincide with an actual emergence. And if there's no emergence, then we don't spray. It's not a case of just going out and spraying because, oh, well, it's 3 weeks or a month since I sprayed. If you go out and monitor, and if the pest is not there, then don't spray.
Predators are often destroyed with chemicals used for vine diseases. Luckily, Doreen is tolerant to some fungicides, including wettable sulphur sprays. This is one reason for her success in the Riverland, where these sprays are used widely in the control of fungus. A disease management program based on wettable sulphur and copper is the ideal way to encourage integrated pest management in the vineyard.
You choose your chemicals from a list that they've been prepared of chemicals that are less harmful to the predators, friendly to the predators. These are principally, in our case, we base them on sulphur and copper. In the case of our caterpillar attacks from principally light brown apple moth, we've been using the biocide dipel for quite a number of years now.
There are other ways to promote Doreen and Victoria in the vineyard. Both should be encouraged over the winter months. Doreen will stay on the vine and will overwinter in the grapevine material. Leave the prune canes nearby so predators can migrate back to the vine come spring. Victoria, on the other hand, needs a leafy haven. Nearby plantings of evergreen such as mirrorbush and viburnum are recommended. Native predatory mites can help Australia's vineyards become cleaner and cheaper to run. And as the demand for organic and pesticide-free wines increase, Australian wines can achieve a distinct advantage in the market. Future success relies on better understanding the relationship between predators and pests in the vineyards and integrating these findings into overall vineyard management. With a bit of encouragement, Doreen and Victoria can help us produce a high-quality product in an environmentally friendly way.